The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Judge Natalie Harrington, known for her no-nonsense demeanor and razor-sharp intellect, took her seat at the bench. It was a high-profile case. Marcus Thompson, a black man, accused of a crime he swore he hadn't committed. The eyes of the nation were on this trial, not just for its sensational details, but for the underlying tensions it represented. Natalie glanced at the defendant and froze, her usually steely expression faltering. Her mind raced back to a dusty playground in a small town where two kids, one white, one black, had made a pact to always have each other's backs. Marcus? She thought. Memories of laughter, shared dreams, and tearful goodbyes flooded her mind. But this man wasn't the boy she remembered. His eyes, once full of mischief and hope, now held an edge of weariness. He didn't seem to recognize her. The prosecution presented its case with clinical precision. Evidence seemed circumstantial but compelling. Fingerprints at the scene, a vague description that matched Marcus's profile. The prosecutor, a rising star, painted Marcus as a dangerous repeat offender, exploiting every stereotype in the book. Natalie watched Marcus's court-appointed attorney, a young, inexperienced man, struggle to counter the narrative. Her heart tightened. She knew Marcus couldn't afford better representation, and the system was grinding him down. The turning point came when the prosecution called their star witness, a store owner who claimed he saw Marcus near the scene. The man, middle-aged and confident, took the stand. "Are you absolutely certain the man you saw was the defendant?" Marcus's lawyer asked. "Positive," the witness replied. Natalie's brow furrowed. Something about the man's testimony didn't sit right. His eyes darted, his hands fidgeted. She had learned to read people over the years, and this man was hiding something. During a recess, Natalie did something she never did. She broke protocol. She called an old contact, a retired detective, and asked for a background check on the witness. It was risky. If discovered, it could ruin her career. But she couldn't ignore her gut. When the trial resumed, Natalie requested a sidebar. She had just received a file. The star witness had a history of fabricating stories. Years ago, he had accused another black man of theft, only for it to be proven false after the man spent years in prison. The prosecutor was furious. "This is highly irregular, Your Honor." "But admissible," Natalie shot back, her voice steady. "We cannot ignore credible evidence that questions the reliability of a key witness." Tension thickened. The jury looked uncertain. The defense lawyer seized the moment, pointing out inconsistencies in the witness's story. Marcus, sitting at the defendant's table, locked eyes with Natalie for the first time. There was a flicker of recognition and a silent question. "Why are you helping me?" She couldn't answer. Not yet. Just when it seemed the tide might turn, the prosecutor introduced a surprise piece of evidence, a grainy video that appeared to show Marcus near the crime scene. Gasps echoed. Marcus's lawyer looked defeated. But Natalie noticed something. The timestamp. She halted the proceedings. "Where did this video come from?" she demanded. The prosecutor stammered. "It was provided anonymously." Natalie's eyes narrowed. "This court requires full transparency. I'm ordering an immediate investigation into the source." Hours later, chaos erupted. The video had been doctored. The real footage, uncovered through a forensic investigation, showed Marcus miles away at the time of the crime. The prosecutor's case unraveled, but the shock wasn't over. The tampering had been orchestrated by a network of local businessmen with ties to the prosecutor, aiming to pin the crime on Marcus to protect one of their own. The conspiracy ran deep, exposing corruption that went beyond this trial. Marcus was acquitted. The courtroom erupted, not in cheers but in a stunned, heavy silence. He stood staring at Natalie, tears welling in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. Natalie stepped down from the bench, breaking every rule. She approached Marcus. "You don't remember me, do you?" He blinked. Then, slowly, recognition dawned. "Nat?" They embraced. The cameras captured the moment. A judge and a man once divided by circumstance but united by a shared history. Outside, reporters clamored. The trial had exposed more than corruption. It had laid bare the insidious, lingering shadows of prejudice. Natalie faced the cameras. Justice isn't just about laws and evidence, it's about people. And today, we remember that everyone deserves to be seen. Not as a case file, but as a human being. Marcus, standing beside her, nodded. We grew up believing in fairness. Today, we fought for it. The world watched, stunned. The story wasn't over. It had just begun. Natalie and Marcus walked out of the courtroom together, a crowd of reporters and onlookers parting like the Red Sea. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, each reporter desperate to capture a moment of vulnerability, of truth. "Natalie!" one shouted. "Did you know the defendant was your childhood friend?" She paused, the weight of the question heavy. "I didn't realize it until the trial began," she admitted. But justice doesn't recognize friendships. It recognizes the truth. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. The truth isn't always easy to find, though, is it? Their conversation was interrupted by a man approaching from the crowd. He was older, dressed in an expensive suit, eyes cold as steel. Marcus stiffened. "Natalie?" the man said smoothly. "We need to talk." It was Howard Preston, the chief executive of a powerful local conglomerate, the same one whose connections had been exposed in the conspiracy. His company's reach extended beyond the courtroom, deep into the community. "Mr. Preston?" Natalie replied, her voice firm. "This isn't the time." "Oh, but it is," Preston smirked. "You've opened Pandora's box, Judge Harrington. Do you think exposing a few bad apples will change anything? These roots go deeper than you know, deeper than you can handle." Marcus stepped forward, fury flashing in his eyes. "You'll pay for what you've done." Preston laughed. "I already have. Men like me always know when to cut our losses." With that, he walked away, leaving a chilling silence. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Natalie felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Exposing the truth had been one battle, but the war was far from over. That night, Natalie sat in her office reviewing files. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You think you saved him? You've only made things worse." Her heart pounded. Marcus was in danger. She rushed out, driving to his modest apartment on the edge of town. When she arrived, the door was ajar, the lights flickering. "Marcus?" she called, her voice shaking. No response. She stepped inside, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot. In the living room, she found Marcus sitting in a chair, his face pale, eyes wide with fear. A man in a mask stood behind him, a knife pressed to his neck. "You shouldn't have dug so deep, Judge," the man growled. Before Natalie could react, Marcus's eyes met hers. There was a flicker of resolve, of unspoken communication. Without warning, Marcus twisted, knocking the knife aside. Natalie lunged, grabbing a heavy lamp and striking the assailant. He crumpled to the floor. Marcus gasped, breathing heavily. "They're not going to stop, Nat." She nodded. "Then neither will we." The next morning, the story broke. Marcus and Natalie went public, revealing the full extent of the conspiracy. Preston and several others were arrested, but it was just the beginning. The community was shaken, but aware now of the corruption that had lurked in the shadows for years. As Natalie stood before a crowd at a press conference, she looked out over the sea of faces. This is more than just one trial. It's a wake-up call. Justice doesn't stop at a courtroom door. It starts with all of us. Marcus took the mic. The question is, will you look away, or will you stand with us? What would you do if the truth you uncovered could cost you everything? Would you still fight for it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more powerful stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring these important stories to life.